Hi, welcome to the Israel First television program with myself, Martin Blackham, and with my wife, Natalie Blackham. Great to have you with us with a program that looks at Israel. We look at the news, and today we've got a special Israel First update for you. And we're going to have a look behind the scenes at the news that's happening in Israel, and also we'll be able to talk about what we're doing and some of the guests that are coming in. And it's because of your support that we're able to come to you today and bring you these programs. So thank you for all our friends and partners who make this program possible. Well, the big story in the news at the moment, this is the Jerusalem Post, and we'll see if we can get this on the camera. And you can see on this side of the paper, it says, right-wing parties signed deal to run in merged list. That's from the Jerusalem Post. And also on the Jerusalem Post, it says, blocks shape up as deadline nears for Knesset lists. And basically what's happening is the different political parties are getting ready for the general election, which will be happening in Israel in September. And you say, well, the last time you spoke to us, Martin, there was an election, and well, there's another election because they couldn't form a coalition. Basically, the Israel government is a system of coalitions between different parties, and they couldn't form a government, so they had to abandon the Knesset and close the parliament, and now we have another election in September. So the different political parties are gearing up, making sure that they're in a good state for attracting votes, Natalie, and it says...
But meanwhile, Netanyahu is still governing.
Yes.
Because it's important. He's not in limbo.
Sure.
Still...
And we'll be talking about that in 1 second. It says, as Israel's election in September nears, the new right has signed an agreement for a combined run with Bayat Yehudi and National Union, ending weeks of speculation and days of negotiations. The name of the new party will likely be the United Right, although this has not yet been finalized. The deal required all the parties to remain together in the coalition negotiations period after the election, and that all three parties recommend to President Reuven Rivlin that Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu will be tasked with forming the next government. This was reportedly a crucial demand of Bayat Yehudi leader Rabbi Rafi Peret. And so he made it a requirement that they recommend Netanyahu, Natalie, to be the next Prime Minister. And talking of Netanyahu, I've got another story. This is from Frontlines, and you can see Netanyahu and the title Hero, and it says that he's the longest, well actually over the page it says, assessing Mr. Longevity. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu becomes Israel's longest serving Prime Minister, and how will he be remembered, his legacy? And it's incredible, really, you know, that
so he passed Ben-Gurion. Ben-Gurion was the one who was the longest, and now is Netanyahu. Yeah,
Netanyahu made history. He's made history recently, becoming Israel's longest-serving leader, and surpassing, as you rightly say, the record holder, which was David Ben-Gurion, and he is solidifying his place as the country's greatest political leader and most dominant force in Israeli politics in his generation. He's the 35th longest reigning premier in the world, and absolutely amazing, his work. You know, overseas, he's been in South America, he's been in Arab countries, and building Israel's name in different industry.
You're right, and they are doing things that hasn't been before. Like, you know, I was speaking last week about the Dead Sea Revival Project, and is an agreement between Jordan and Israel. And I was looking at things, you know, they want to do also a train who goes from Israel, which is like the Mediterranean Sea, to the Gulf. So they are trying to do something also with Iraq, which is kind of amazing. So there is a lot of things that are happening, and that never happened before. You know, the Jewish people after 1948 had to exile to go out of all the Arabic Muslim countries, I would say more Muslim countries. And now there is a change. The wind is changing.
And then, you know, we don't just cover what's happening in Israel. And this is the Jerusalem Post again, but look at the title. It says, Britain's new... And by the way, this is when we've come into the studio. It may be when you see the programme. Of course, it's no longer news, but this is when we've come into the studio. It says, Britain's new Prime Minister, Boris Johnson. We're going to get Brexit done. With the Conservative leadership win of 66%, he won of the votes. And it says, Boris Johnson, the Brexiteer who has promised to leave Britain out of the European Union with or without a deal by the end of October, will replace Theresa May. He's actually done that as we're here. As Prime Minister after winning the leadership of the Conservative Party. His convincing victory catapults the United Kingdom towards a showdown with the European Union and towards a constitutional crisis possibly at home, as British lawmakers have vowed to bring down any government that tries to leave the bloc without a divorce deal. We're going to get Brexit done on October 31st, and we're going to take advantage of all the opportunities it will bring in a new spirit of can-do, Johnson said after the result was announced. And it's amazing that, you know, that he's now suddenly...
There is a lot of...
there's a change coming in the world.
It's starting to change in the UK. But also, you know, what a lot of people might not know is that Boris also have been in a kibbutz when he was younger, so he has also knowledge of Israel, and he loves Israel, and they find also in his family that he has some Jewish roots. So there is an affinity for him and Israel, and I think we are going to see things changing. Now there is a bit of a funny joke that he has blonde hair, and like Trump has blonde hair, and they are putting the two people next to each other and saying, why are they twins and separated at their birth? Do you know the story?
Yeah, and it's and the thing is that both Boris Johnson and President Trump are very pro-Israel, yes. And that's very important. You know, for the nation of Israel depends on the support of other nations. It can, you know, exist without it, but it's much more beneficial for security, for trade and prosperity for the Jewish nation. So. This is a very important thing that's happened. How long he will last, we don't know. Even in Israel, we don't know what will happen. You know, some people are saying they'll have the next election and then maybe they'll even have to have another election. So who knows?
I know, but this is the thing. I think on the world now, in all around the world, and when you see what's happening with the nations, is like, okay, there is somebody behind all the nations who are directing the things. And I think we have to remember that. That is God who is directing behind. And again, we were speaking with do you remember with Tu Levi saying that suddenly I was discovering, wait a minute, like the history of the world is happening because of Israel. And you can see that again today. Is becoming more and more evident. We need to open really our eyes to be able to see these things. So when we bring you news, we don't just want to bring you news, but like with the insight of what's happening from Israel and touching the nations.
And you can catch up with all the latest news on our Facebook page. We try to put a daily news story on there. You can subscribe if you are on Facebook. There's also the YouTube, don't forget. If you've missed a program or you want to catch up with other programs, then do subscribe to our YouTube channel. Now, you've been doing some research regarding Caleb. And
yes, you know, and you know how we love to go more in the Hebrew language and in the Bible. And again, we're like with Tu Levi and speaking about the Israel Bible, who gives some commentaries at the bottom, and like behind in the parasha, you know, it's like the portion that the Jewish people read every year, and they go through it. Yeah, they go it every week. They read a portion. So, but right now I'm still very behind, and I mean again with the story of the spies, and I find some amazing. I was going to say delicious, and it's true. You know, the Torah, the Word of God, is so amazing, and is written. There is stories, but there is stories for us also to understand how to do the things. Now, when the amazing story of the spies really inspired me. You see the spies, they were, it's in Numbers, they were leaders, you know, they weren't just like picked up from one tribe here and there, they were the leaders of the tribe. So they were like proeminent people and people of renown. And then you have Caleb, Caleb, sorry, in English, Caleb, and you have also Joshua. Joshua, his name at the beginning was called Hosea, and Moses prayed for him before they go with all the spies, pray for him and change his name. And so he's called after Yehoshua, Joshua, which is a name that we know. So if you look in Hebrew, this name, he's added a yud, but adding this yud is like his name right at the beginning. He has the name of God, Yah. So he's strengthening himself, carrying the word of God, being connected with him closer. Okay. Now, when you look at the spies, you can see them. They all give a good report. Funny enough, you know, we say that they give a bad report. No, they give a good report, saying great thing about the land. But right after that, they say Ephes in Hebrew, which means but. Ephes means also zero. So they were nullifying all the things that they were saying at the beginning. And so the people are in the ear of all the people. So they were going into the promised land and they said, okay, this is a wonderful land and all of that, but. And this but just nullify everything that they are saying. Now, it said also in Numbers that Caleb, and you have Caleb and Joshua. So Caleb is said in the Bible, he has a different spirit, which is interesting, because he was like, yes, we can see all of that, but we have also the courage. And why do we know? Okay, let us see again. There is a passage, it's in Numbers 13 and it's 22, and it's written, they went up into the Negev and came to Hebron. So we know that it's Caleb who is coming when he say he came to Hebron. But you see here, I looked again in a lot of different Bible, and it is not written. It is not written. You are missing it. You see it in Hebrew. So it's because of that we need to go back and study with our Jewish friends so we can see with the Hebrew language, and there is a lot of things hidden that we need to discover. So why did he go to Hebron? The others went to the Negev, but he went to Hebron. Why did he go to Hebron? Do you know why?
He went to the cave of Machpelah.
You're right. And what's happening in the cave of Machpelah?
That's the place where they buried
our forefathers,
Adam,
Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob.
Yeah.
You're right.
And some people say it's Adam and Eve, but I don't know.
Yes, but right now, like he was.
We know that it's Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob
because the bones were put there. So when we say that he went to Hebron, when
you can go there today, by the way.
Yes.
If you're visiting Israel, you can visit the cave of Machpelah, where Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob are buried. And the question is, well, how do you know they're buried there? They could be buried. You know, some people say there's a tomb here, a tomb there, and that's because there's markers were put. They put in the ground markers where the resting place was, and there were caves. So there were markers and caves, and they knew there'd been a history in that area.
Because Abraham...
and so they know.
Mm-hmm. And Abraham buy the field. So Caleb went over there to really connect with his forefathers because they had the promise, this is the promised land. And so in him, he goes and he internalizes in him that the promised land is very important and I have to stand up. Now, this was very interesting. It's like a lot of stories, but when you see there in Hebron, there was some giants. And sometimes in our life, we are confronted to our giants, but Caleb said, okay, I know that the promised land is over there, so I will confront also the giant. I'm not afraid of them. So you understand why they say he had a different spirit. He was like, whatever, I'm going because I know that at the end we're going into the chosen land, the promised land, and we're going to see amazing things. This is all in this little passage, you know, in Numbers. It's just amazing.
Wow. And it's you know, these kind of things are very interesting because we don't really know behind the scenes so much what happened with the spies, and to know his visit, that he personally went to Hebron is very, very, very interesting. And you know, it's funny because we were when we did the Christian Zionist special, we were talking about Hebron, and it's certainly somewhere, and we're very hopeful, hasn't been arranged yet, to have the spokesperson in from Hebron to come and speak to you and explain about the importance of this amazing place. And what's amazing when you visit Hebron and you go to the Cave of Machpelah is that this was built at the same time as the Second Temple. So you're seeing a building, well, okay, you're not seeing the temple, but you're seeing a building which was built at the same time, which is absolutely amazing.
Yeah. By King Herod, you can see the stones, you can see on the side, he had a specific way of cutting the stone. Not him, obviously, he's the people who are working for him. So people know when it's from Herod, King Herod, they know, when they look at some building and it's like, and that one is the oldest building in the world who are still standing.
Wow.
Yeah.
Amazing. It's not on the usual tourist routes, but it's well worth a visit, and especially if it's your second time or you want to see something, you're coming to Israel and you've seen the normal things and you want to see some different things. It's well worth seeing. Well, we don't normally, sometimes refer to Haaretz. It's not a paper I would recommend, but it's interesting to look at the different newspapers from Israel. And this one in Haaretz, the headline is new flight path to airport passes low over Arab towns, which you say, well, why is that? Why could that be an issue? Well, this is where there are terrorists there, and it says the low approach over Palestinian towns exposes planes landing in Israel to ground fire. Israel's defense establishment approved the route over the Arab towns. Former civil aviation officer said, even if no planes get shot down, a bullet hit would open the gates of hell. The Israeli Airports Authority has inaugurated a new flight path into Ben Gurion Airport, despite the fact that it necessitates flying a low altitude on the outskirts of Ramallah. So because of all this growth in the increase in aeroplanes, they need to have another route, which happens to go over Ramallah and certain areas. And, there is a risk. And so it's something, but some people say there are other places equally dangerous in the world where planes fly over. And but anyway, so that's something which you need to be aware of. The funny thing is, whenever you come to Israel, and we encourage you to do that, it's just amazing to fly into Ben Gurion. It's always an amazing experience to come and land in the Holy Land. And
it is.
Yeah, at the end of the day, it's the work that we're doing, Natalie. It's so important that you support it. So if you'd like to get in touch with us, if you'd like to support us, then we have a website, www.israelfirst.org. There's a lot of information on there. You say, well, I'd like to. How do I do that, Martin? I'm watching today and I really feel that I'd like to get involved with the work and support the work of Israel First television program. Well, the website has a donate button. It's on the right-hand side. Just click on that. If you find it difficult or you need to get in touch with us, don't forget there's an email, info@israelfirst.org. And talking about, the interesting thing, Natalie, is that, we don't, terrorism is something which happens from time to time in Israel, and it's not something that we focus on, but it's something that we need to be aware of. And, even in the Gaza Strip, there are things happening, and this is the Jerusalem front lines. It says 5 years later, and another Gaza war remains on the horizon. And even today, as we've come into the studio, there's a story of 3 Israeli soldiers who were shot, who were defending the border when there were terrorists. There was a terrorist who infiltrated into Israel. And so, it could easily blow up into another war. The next war with the terrorist group in the Hamas-controlled Gaza Strip will last shorter than Protective Edge and will see the Israeli army deal a massive blow to the Hamas and Palestinian Islamic Jihad. The IDF has faced increased criticism following allegations by former military ombudsman Major General Yitzhak Brick, who warned that the military, especially the ground forces, are not prepared for a large-scale war. but the military says it's learned the lessons from the over 50-day Operation Protective Edge in 2014, as well as the numerous rounds of violence over the past year. The IDF says it has the capabilities and intelligence to inflict severe damage to terrorist groups in a short amount of time should a war break out. The military has also increased the number of Palestinian Islamic Jihad and Hamas targets which will be struck in the next campaign. And so there's a lot there. And they've been doing a whole exercise by the Gaza Strip, the Israeli army. So this is something that's happening in Israel.
And I was reading also another report saying that Iran is really trying to go into Gaza more and more. So it's like, obviously Israel won't let Iran be established in Gaza. So one day or another something might happen.
So this is something that you need to be aware of. Now, this is, as we come to the end of the program, this is a funny story in one way. It says gridlock alert. I mean, not funny if you're stuck in it, but, you know, it's funny compared to other stories. And it's got a picture of a truck stuck in the traffic in Jerusalem. And it says, with Jerusalem's western entrance closed to non-public transportation, will traffic flow or will it jam? Traffic chaos is forecast for Jerusalem as the main entrance closes for 3 years. Now, it's already bad when things close for 3 days. So when I saw 3 years, I thought, is this serious or is it a joke?
No, it's because they are building an old center just at the entrance of Jerusalem. So they need to have all the heavy machineries and all of that. Now, do you remember what we said? Caleb and Joshua brought a good report, so we have always to bring good report. It is like that. It's in one way very inconvenient for a lot of people, even us when we go over there. But this is for the better of Jerusalem, because there is more and more people, more trade, more beautiful things, more hotels for the tourists, and they have to build. So.
Yeah, but in the middle of everything, the public transportation will still run.
Yeah.
If you're travelling by bus or you're coming into Jerusalem on the public transport system, then apparently everything is going to be okay. It's just if you come by car, and it's Shazar, for those who are interested, it's Shazar Boulevard, a major road entering from Route 1, expected to be blocked for all private vehicles from the Cords Bridge to the Nordo Junction for 3 years.
So it's the one who is opposite the central bus station.
And the Yoel Evan, who is the acting CEO at Moriah Jerusalem Development Company, says about the Jerusalem Gateway project, we do not recommend coming into the city when unnecessary. So he's like, don't come in unless you have to come in. But as Natalie was saying, you know, the story behind it is that the whole of the entrance of Jerusalem is being changed for a much better traffic flow, that there are tunnels, that there are the widening the road, and just like they were doing with the Road 1 coming from
Shoresh.
From Tel Aviv into Jerusalem has been widened, and they're doing the same thing, but this time into the heart of the capital.
It's like the old capital. It was like a sleeping dormant princess, and now she's been kissed, and she's waking up, and so this capital has been like really dormant for 2,000 years, and now she's rising again. So there is a lot of things happening, a lot of work and a lot of activities in Jerusalem all the time.
And one of the things we do on the program, and I know that we do get people writing in and saying they really enjoy that, is that the Hebrew segment. So we're going to have a look at this right now.
Shalom, dear friends. It's wonderful to be with you again. And today we are looking at the last part of the understanding, or the beginning of the understanding of Amalek and the importance of it. So we want to look at why was the crime of Amalek so important. Now there is another passage in the Bible, and it's in Deuteronomy 25, verse 17 and 18. This is what is said: remember again what Amalek did unto you by the way as you came forth out of Egypt. And it's what we saw when it was in Exodus 17. So when you look at the name in Hebrew, here in Deuteronomy is written Asher Kacha Badecher. So it's when you were on the way, okay? And there Kacha comes from the root kar, and kar means I'm cold, okay? So what is it there? Because Amalek is trying to cool us off. We spoke already about that. He drenched our passion of God, and by his attack, he sought to cool the ardor that we have for our love for God and for his commandment. And so when we understand the opposition that we have to do what God is telling us, is because Amalek doesn't want that. Amalek doesn't want to see Israel being Israel, because he knows that when Israel is Israel, there is a kingdom coming. There is the kingdom of heaven coming on earth, and he knows that he's fighting that all the time. So we need to understand that. Amalek is the archenemy of God, but we are the agent of God to bring the kingdom of God on the earth. Isn't it amazing? Amazing. Okay, from me, bye, and I will see you next week.
Well, we hope you've enjoyed the Hebrew segments. I know a lot of you do, because we get emails coming in. We've got Natalie's book available. That's on the website, www.israelfirst.org, and it's in English, French and German now. So you can order that online, get hold of one. Very easy to read, and we'll give you a lot of information about Hebrew. There's other things on the website, as well as being able to order the book. You can see programs that you've missed. You can look at the news from Israel, news updates. So have a look at the website, and we'd love to receive your emails. You can email us at info@israelfirst.org, and remember, we're the program that looks at the land, the people, and the language.